Live. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast. I don't know why some of my favorite intros are me just acting like I'm surprised that all of a sudden it's happening.
I am surprised because I was pouring myself a drink and I realized I'm counting down and I don't even realize what the countdown is. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 384 of the O The Anthem podcast. Corey is, of course, coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, gentrifying LA one neighborhood at a time.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice. The easiest way, anchor.fm/O The Anthem.
All that time to prepare and just completely unprepared whatsoever. So what are you gonna do?
It's the modus operandi of this podcast. So don't feel too bad about yourself.
If only we had a producer who was, somewhere close by and he could produce the show while we just worried about being funny. And anyway, if you're in the LA area, let us know.
You want to jump on a Zoom once a week?
We need to replace the current staff, clearly. Anyway, speaking of replacing the current staff, Corey, where were you and how did you celebrate Trump's glorious reinstatement day this week?
Oh man, I was within tears the entire day. I was just like, how did I not see this coming? How did Mike Lindell break through this without like I pride myself on being such a follower of the news and so well read on how things work in politics and government and stuff like that, and just to be railroaded, basically not railroaded, like steamrolled by Mike Lindell and his facts. It's just too much for me.
How are we to know about the Illuminati loophole? We had no idea that there was an Illuminati loophole.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't imagine China went in and changed all the votes without telling any. I mean, clearly, if there was something wrong, somebody was going to have to dig deep and find it. And by the way, if you're not following with what we're saying, congratulations, you're not on Twitter as much as the two of us are.
I'd like to think that most of the country is just like, wait, was Trump was supposed to come back? What's happening?
Wait, is this one of those Q thingies? Yes, it is. It is. Wrapped in with Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, who we've talked about a lot since the election, and specifically recently, where he said that Trump would be re-inaugurated on August 13th. I think it was 3 weeks ago we talked about this.
Yeah,
Trump would be back on August 13th, and that the news that would be exposed would be so earth-shattering that both Biden and Kamala Harris would have to resign, and then Trump would take over the Oval Office. At which point we pointed out that that's how you get President Pelosi. Literally no person on the face of the earth wants that. Can we not even tempt fate with that idea?
Listen, our best case scenario is Biden resigns, Kamala takes over, reappoints a new vice president who is confirmed, and then resigns. And then we get a new vice president.
We get a new vice president, yeah.
Which, by the way, basically how Gerald Ford became president, because nobody voted for him.
More or less, yes. But yes, Mike Lindell had his big moment where he was going to drop the bombshell information. He had a cybersecurity conference in the cybersecurity hotbed of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
When I think of security, I think of Sioux Falls. Yeah.
It's literally known as the Fort Knox of the internet in Sioux Falls. They apparently Mike Lindell invited some guy who is a noted crackpot right-wing election specialist, but he actually is an election specialist, but he's also a crackpot at the same time.
And that's what we call covering our bases. All right, I'm going to have a couple guys here, but I want this guy who agrees with everything. Yeah. No matter how crazy it is, he's going to say, you know what? This thing's got some validity. Let me tell you why.
It feels like if I was going to go a la Jake Paul and have a celebrity boxing match, and I was going to challenge somebody, and I was like, yeah, but Rob's got to be the ref. And it's like, no, Rob can't be an impartial referee. We all know he's going to rule against me. It's gonna,
I would rule against you the whole time.
It wouldn't be. It's not like this would be an advantage to me. Rob would find any rule that I break and disqualified round 1, not wearing a mouthpiece. Get the fuck out of here.
On your way down to the ring, I'd be like, what was that, a prance? No, not allowed. Match over. We're done.
Did you break the seal on your gloves to smoke a cigarette? You're done. You're out of here.
things that might actually happen in a celebrity boxing match with Corey.
The only
or some poor soul to hold the cigarette for him while he's smoking outside.
Just get some guy that I'm apologizing to the whole time. Just like, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. The guy's got another cigarette in his other hand. He's like, man, it's not a problem. I mean, I was out here anyway. I don't...
Just going on it like a fucking baby cow on the teat. Like,
if anybody has Photoshop skills and can do a picture of Corey suckling at a cigarette like a cow, baby cow at a teat, I would pay good money for that. Just so you know, if anybody's out there.
To find good money, I got some time this week. I could do a photo shoot for the whole thing. No, so there was a cybersecurity conference in Sioux Falls. The loaded dice were there in the way of this election specialist, known crackpot election specialist, who apparently live on stage looked at the evidence and said, yeah, it's not, this doesn't prove anything at all. I see where you're coming with your China illegally changed votes in half a dozen states to make sure that Trump didn't win the election. But I don't see it in the data. And then quietly the event ended an hour later than it was
Lindell
supposed to.
Became a Looney Tune, and he leaned to one side. His feet started doing that circular motion, and he just spat off the side of the stage.
It ended an hour later than they thought it would because notably the cybersecurity convention started an hour late because they couldn't get their live stream up. So that was another fun part of the whole.
Nobody was factoring the 56K connection in Sioux Falls. They're just trying to figure out how to make it work.
My favorite part, though, obviously, is the fun that everyone had with it on August 13th. There was some guy whose apparently office looks down on the National Mall where the presidential inaugurations usually happen. He took a picture. He's like, "Wow, it's even less people than the last time." And I'm like, "Oh, there was so much good." Like,
I would have set up a camera and had sponsors. The live stream of President Trump's second inauguration is brought to you by My Pillow.
Brought to you by Mountain Dew Code Red. Because why not? You've already Mountain Dewed. Why not go the whole way?
You weren't using those brain cells anyway. All right. Just so everybody's clear.
Some poor Rhodes scholar who just happens to like Mountain Dew is like, hey, what the fuck?
And I don't want people to get confused. Biden is still president and will be still president at least for a few more weeks until this whole Afghanistan thing shakes out. Because
yeah, I don't think, for whatever reason, I don't think this is going to be the end all be all of it. I don't think they're
probably not. Should it be? Maybe. But if you haven't been paying attention,
let's wait and see what happens when the House, when the midterms happen. And if the Republicans have the House, I'm sure they're going to find some Looney Tune reason to try and impeach Biden for something.
Or we'll have Afghanistan hearings for frickin' ever. 12 of them. But if you haven't been paying attention to the news, this is not a news headline from 2002. But the Taliban has retaken Kabul and
inside the presidential palace.
Yeah, they're in the presidential palace. They are in the embassy, the American embassy. They are in all of the camps that we set up there. And also they've basically taken control of the whole country. Not even just the parts they had before. Because here's an interesting thing if you look into the history. At no point did the Taliban actually control all of Afghanistan. Because there were these very strong factions in the north that kept their control to basically the southern half. And it was a big deal in 1996 when they took Kabul. Now those factions don't exist anymore because we made them give up their guns because the government was there to protect them. And
now not so much. Yeah.
So the Taliban basically just has rule of the whole country. There are some, of course, warlords who will have control in the north, but like the Taliban essentially is getting all of the American and ANA materials that were left, like, you know, helicopters and tanks. And now they'll have those to go to war in the north. So not good.
No,
not good.
No. And, you know, I just think it's utterly perplexing that we had a podcast last week where we were talking about how prepare this week for the wind down of Afghanistan and how this could go wrong. And then, literally within the week between the show being recorded and being us coming back for another one, like the country has already fallen. Like it's amazing. Yep. We spent $88 million training the Afghan army. I don't know if you saw the same videos I was seeing of like Afghan army members trying to do jumping jacks and being unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. Like it seems like it wasn't $88 million well spent. And
I want to correct you because that's not the correct figure, Corey. You keep rounding to the wrong number. 88 billion with a B.
Did I say million?
Yes, you said million.
Oh
twice.
My God, I'm so
88 billion with a B.
Guys, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know why I confused my millions and billions.
Yeah.
Mostly because we as people who were alive when September 11th happened, will tell you, it never seemed like this was we were sold a vastly different bill of goods in 2001.
Yeah.
The idea originally was the Taliban was responsible for the attack, the terrorist attack against our country, which killed 3,000 people.
They were housing the people who did. They were protecting the people who.
It's the easiest way of saying the terrorists who were responsible. The Taliban was part of the groupthink that happened that created what would become 9/11. Of them, chiefly Osama bin Laden was like the enemy number one for 12 years or whatever it was in between September 11th and death.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea,
that's what you think, Corey. As Q's told us, Osama bin Laden is still alive. So
he's hanging out with Elvis and Tupac and
absolute in Cuba,
Sweet and the Flamingo. Elvis 44 years ago, by the way, death.
He'd be like 100 now.
What are we holding on to him for?
Oh! Interesting thing I brought up to Corey, which sapped all of his energy yesterday. If Austin Powers was remade today, Austin Powers would have been frozen in the year 1991. Because when that movie first came out in 1999, he had been frozen for 30 years. From 1969 to 1999. And Corey's like, that's not right. What? Damn.
And then it made me realize that Austin Powers would smell like Teen Spirit. And
oh my God.
I'd be okay with that.
He'd be a grunge guy. Oh, Mike Myers, can we please... Mike, I know you listen to the podcast. Can you please remake Austin Powers when he gets refrozen in 91 as a grunge kid and then comes out? And it's not like free love. It's just like, man, whatever. I don't even care. Like,
it's like fuck the system.
Yeah. That's the Austin Powers we need today. Anyway,
yeah, but we sold a bill of goods like, hey, there's these like 300 terrorist who are hanging out in the mountains of Afghanistan. We're going to be the mighty American military force that you know us to be. And we're just going to go over and clear them out. It's going to take like a week and a half. And as soon as they're all dead, we'll have a big parade. Yep. And then everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. And then turns out that it was a lot harder to get to the terrorists than that. So we had to create liaisons with the people who lived in Afghanistan and surrounding countries, some of which was welcomed and some of which was not. And then it turns out that we have to nation build after this whole thing because we fucking ruined Afghanistan for the people who lived there and made it more unsafe. And then
you can't just bomb it into the Stone Age.
And, and then this it seemed to be taking a lot longer than it was supposed to. And then here we are, 2021, and not only is the Taliban still here, but they've seemed to get bigger. Like we've managed to piss off so many people in the region that the Taliban has had the opportunity to improve its ranks as opposed to become lesser of a force than it was before. And in the fact that the U.S. is essentially giving up and leaving, it must feel like they won. Like, just like the Viet Cong, where just like, yeah, we lost a lot of people, but America eventually just gave up. So like, we kind of won this whole thing. Like,
two things of note.
In so much as there are winners and losers, America certainly is the loser of this whole thing. And then America,
Two things of note. Number one is that if you study the history of Afghanistan, what you're going to find is some of the world's greatest empires have invaded it. And in modern times, those include the Soviet Union and the United Kingdom twice.
Yeah.
In all occasions, the Pashtun people, of whom the Afghanis are one tribe, but the Pashtun people of Afghanistan simply melt into the hills, carry out a guerrilla war for long enough to bleed the enemy until they don't have support for it at home. And then the enemy leaves and they come down out of the hills and then reestablish their society. This has been happening since literally 3000 BC. The first Pashtun people, from whom all of the Persian languages come. Before there was a Persian language, people were doing this in the hills of Afghanistan, and the U.S., because we are the U.S., came in and was like, listen, I know you got 5,000 years of history on this, but you've never seen American military might. So let's go do this. And to the point I made last week, which is to all of those right-wing crazies, many of whom are my family, who were just like, I ask, what would you do if we got invaded? Oh, we'd fight them on the streets and then melt into the hills and carry out a guerrilla war. So you're familiar with the movie Red Dawn, correct, Corey?
Both of them.
But the remake, yes. I'm referring to the original, the 1986, 85 version.
Where it was Russians, yeah.
Yes, where it was Russians, and it made a lot more sense than like Asian people of some variety.
Random country we don't want to offend.
And it wasn't just Russians; it was the Soviets, along with Cubans and Angolans and Chinese.
Seems weird. It seems weird that Micronesia is invading us like this, but I guess maybe they have a big army, and I just don't know.
Red Dawn, the movie, was actually based on a book, which was based on a short story. And do you know the outcome of that story and the book, Red Dawn, Corey?
No.
It is actually in the prologue, or not the prologue, the antilogue, whatever. What's the opposite of a prologue? Postscript?
Yeah, I mean,
at the end of the movie, there's
epilogue?
There's like a epilogue. There we go, epilogue. At the end of the movie, there's some a monument, and there's some text that scrolls on the screen, which you may not remember, but I remember it very well. And it talks about how the rest of the war panned out, and that's how the book closes out too. It talks about how the rest of the war went, and what it says is that the Americans folded into the free zone in the middle where the communists just couldn't get. And then eventually, slowly but surely, through a guerrilla war, bled them out until they pushed back towards the coast. And then the communists eventually just left, and Americans were left to rebuild society. And then they came back and built this monument in 2032 or whatever to the freedom fighters who started that flame of revolution. And I was thinking to myself this week, even in our fiction, where we are the good guys who got invaded, we recognize that in a country where you are the home team, you can just melt into the hills and just outlast them. Just stay alive and kill them slowly.
This is really the beacon point of what makes me so goddamn upset about this whole thing. We have 3,000 people die in the original act of terrorism against us. 3,000 people on our shores die. On top of that, what was the total casualty count in Afghanistan over these 20 years?
So
I mean, it wasn't as like high velocity as Vietnam was, but it was also not like, considering it's 20 years of warfare.
It's 80. It was, I think it's 8,700. But the difficulty is that, not the difficulty. The comparison is difficult because basically what they've said is the advances in medicine between 75 and 01 meant that 90% of the people who would have died on the battlefield in Vietnam could be saved and could go on to live lives.
Yeah,
just 2001.
Just a life that the United States government doesn't take any kind of care for you, or just throws you out on the street to deal with whatever fucking awful thing happened to you that you survived.
Missing limbs
in some theater of war. Like this is really what bothers me. I know too many people who served. I know too many people who even without injury, even without death, without any kind of like truly horrific number that we track on a chart, came back philosophically different people, and are not the same fun-loving person that they were prior to going to Afghanistan. And then there's the people who died. And then there's the people who died in New York and in, Virginia. And it's just that Pennsylvania, I'm sorry, Skanksville, Pennsylvania. It's just like, I think if if I said I'm back from the future in September 12th, 2001, and I say to people, Osama bin Laden's the guy who did it. Here's 50 other people who are really responsible. How much money would you be comfortable us spending in the effort of trying to get these people? And I think realistically, you could say $1 billion to people or something like that, and they'd be
does
like,
it have a T? Does it start with a T? Because that's what we spent. More than one of them.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would be cool with nearly $3 trillion worth of money being spent on war effort, and so much of it really just being pissed away in the arms of Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and other war contractors who would spend incredible money on political donations to get 10 times the amount back in, missiles, and this is the beginning of the place where America becomes not a fighter who is willing to declare war on somebody, but rather be able to, drone a wedding to kill one person and 20 innocent people, if not more, and maybe not even get the guy they were going for, the bad guy that they were going for. This is the change in the sort of American exceptionalism of foreign policy began to completely come disentangled in this moment. People will say that Vietnam was like that first crack, but Afghanistan and therefore Iraq, and the following there Iraq, were the things that just made the limb just break off the tree. And for as much as like people are getting on Biden's case about this, like he's the one who happened to be holding the bag when they decided to call it, like somebody was going to end this shit. It was going to be somebody. I argue that Biden could have done things to make this better. He could have gotten out a little bit better, but literally there was no. I can't foresee something that he could have done in the last couple of months that could have led us to feeling positive about how the war in Afghanistan ended.
I disagree with that because this was his plan. It's a plan he put together that the Trump administration continued, that he now got to finish, and he has said since 2012. This will not be another Saigon. This will not be another Saigon. And then this week we saw Chinook helicopters taking off from the embassy to ferry
people literally
to the
hanging
airport.
off the edge. Yeah.
And then to the airport where people were hanging onto the plane to try and leave with the American aircraft that were taking off. Like, it's Saigon again. We're right back there. And by the way, faster, because the fall of Saigon happened months after the withdrawal in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
This happened days after the withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. So it could have been handled a lot better. He could have handled it better. There were better ways to do it. The ball falls to him. This is his plan, and he botched it.
No, I think in his mind, he's just going to eat this one, and hopefully it blows over, and that's fine. Like, somebody was going to have to end this thing. There were already steps being taken from Trump before to start to create such true
Obama
withdrawal.
Before that.
I know. Everybody was slowly egging it on further and further until we got to this point. Some fucking idiot in Congress is going to say that we need to investigate Biden for this shit. If we're going to spend any government money on investigating what the fuck happened with Afghanistan, I want war crimes against W. I want war crimes against Rumsfeld. Drag him out of the grave. Bring Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice and anybody else who had their fingers on it. Cheney.
Cheney is technically dead because he doesn't have a pulse. Bush is the new sweetheart of the art community. He's got the reverse Hitler in him where he's like, I'm going to do war crimes and then do art.
And then paint.
Yeah. Listen,
I mean,
if you could travel back in time and there was a time traveler back in 2001, because I don't know if you know this, infamous senator or congressman, Ron Paul, whose son is in politics. Apparently. He made a statement on the floor of the House where he said something to the effect of, in 20 years, we are going to be out of Afghanistan. If we don't do this right, we're going to be out of Afghanistan and the Taliban is going to be back in power. And lo and behold, 20 years later, we're out of Afghanistan and the Taliban is back in power. So I don't know that Ron Paul is a time traveler. I'm just saying it's possible. And the fact that he may have fucked one of his own relatives and ancestors, and that's why Rand Paul is so messed in the head.
That's why Rand Paul can't win a fight against his neighbor.
It makes sense, man. I'm just saying it's there. All right? I'm starting my own conspiracy.
Ron Paul certainly not without his critics, not without people who will disagree with him. But it is amazing how alarmingly right he was sometimes. Like when he called the ball, when he was calling balls and strikes, there were a few people who sort of knew better than Ron Paul. And I honestly,
traveler. Listen, Ron Paul, I get it. You saw Caroline in the city there, and you were like, I don't care that she's my mom. I'm just gonna get in. And Rand Paul is what happened. I get it. All right, we're all worse off. It's fine.
There could be an argument made that the Republican Party would be a vastly different place right now if Ron Paul had beat Mitt Romney in the primary.
Also,
and it was close. It was close.
Maybe it was because he broadcast his own birth. Via.
Well, no. The problem is he put racist shit in a newsletter that he profited off of. That's the problem.
Everybody's canceled. Everybody's canceled.
That's Ron Paul's like number one sin. That's the thing. And people don't like libertarians. I feel like I think like people like to think that they like libertarians, but then as soon as one starts talking, they're just like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this shit.
Yeah, that's because people want health care. And by the way, we could have bought a lot of goddamn healthcare for $2.7 trillion.
Oh God! Yeah, I was telling Rob, I was reading an article earlier about how this is supposed to be prime money making years for people, millennials of me and his vintage, and thank God we spent $3 trillion on just one war that happened during that lifetime. You know, in the middle of 2 economic collapses and a global pandemic and all the other shit. I feel like I should really just get Raytheon should just cut me a check. I think part of any kind of investigation should go into the money that was made by some of these companies. And I feel like just as a class action, I should get like $500,000 from Raytheon or something like that. You know, like
keep talking. They're going to cut you a check. They're going to cut you a check for $72,000. And it's going to be in the form of an R9 knife missile right through the damn window of your apartment. But listen,
why are you fucking with people who make weapons, bro?
This is why
I have
made the distinct decision not to bring children into this fucked up world because things are only going to get worse from here, folks. And it's not just the politics of it. The earth itself is saying, fuck these humans. Can we get them off the surface? Because in what can only be described as the most human tragedy story that I've read in a long time, in the era of COVID, the worst human tragedy story, a 7.2 earthquake hits Haiti, followed by aftershocks. You were reading off the aftershocks, 6.5, 5.8, like incredibly strong aftershocks. And 1,400 people dead, 6,900 people injured at the time that we went live here. Unknown number of people missing.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, a tropical depression, possible storm, depending on how strong it is when it gets there, is now passing over the area, or will be at 2 a.m.
East Coast time.
So 1 hour from now, which will only make the soil soggy, which means the very next tremble that they get, everything that's left will collapse.
Yeah.
And then, also the 40 to 50 mile an hour winds. And then about a week after that, right behind tropical depression or storm Grace is yet another tropical depression that is tracing its way directly over the same area again. So for those of you, I have this is for you, Corey, since you are one of these people. You believe in God.
Oh, okay.
What kind of fucked up God is looking at this situation and being like, let's see. We gave him an earthquake. What else can we do? Hurricane. God, I think they've had enough. Is there anything else we can do to them or to help them? And he's like, yep. Another hurricane. Give it to them. This is how a fucked up 12-year-old plays Sim City or Sim World or whatever. It's like, what can I do? Tornado. What's after that? Hurricane. All right, let's just kill everybody.
I always made the argument that to the people who said God does, if God so loved us, why does He punish us so? To look at Job, because that's always the one I go to. Wait a minute. No, I fucked that up, didn't I?
No, that's correct. That's correct.
Job's the one he was fucking with, right?
Yeah, where he lets the devil fuck with him.
Yes. Yeah,
Yep.
and just like he will believe in me, he will stick with me. Oh, good.
Do you know? Do you know the story of Job though?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember it like other people who memorize the Bible do. It's been a while since.
So the story of Job is the story of my love life.
Like I believe that he will love me no matter what, even if we put him through unimagined pain and torture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Even if I murder his 11 sons and his uncounted daughters and his wives and his livestock and his servants, it is the story of how, again, my love life, how the death of 40 plus people and the loss of millions of dollars is required to prove your love to someone. To a deity that is all-knowing and omnipresent, and omniscient is all-knowing. Omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent.
All I'm saying is this God who so loves us also had the entire Old Testament in which to be randomly pissed at us for whatever reason. It's amazing how as soon as the book that focused more on love and caring about people, like how different that it's like a God grew up at that moment where he's just like, fucking done. I had a kid, I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm done fucking with people. Like,
one of my pieces of content I'm working on is the fact that I have a book which traces my family back nearly 2,000 years. So here is my pitch. When good things happen to you, it's because of me. When bad things happen to you, it's because you don't believe strongly enough in me or because I'm punishing you for something that you did.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is to read and study this book that is essentially just outlining my family for the last 2,000 years and have a strong belief in me, and good things will happen. But if good things don't happen, that's your fault, not my fault.
Take it from
I'll be taking
him.
Donations at the house of Rob.
Take it from him, acclaimed author L. Rob Hubbard.
L. Rob Hubbard, yes,
L.
absolutely.
Rob
But 100%, I realize that I can, in fact, justify my Messiah complex by explaining the 2,000-year-old book that leads up to my birth. And hold on. It's just about like when good things happen, thank me, and when bad things happen, fuck you. Then I can do that shit. I can ignore you and then take your praise when good things happen.
Getting back to the awful,
I do that to Corey all the time.
Going back to the awful loss of life and property in Haiti.
Tragedy, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I ever meet God, I will expect him to be on his knees and begging for my forgiveness. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know what else there is to really say other than the fact that this is awful. Just like anytime, for whatever reason, like, I know that the severe weather that we're sort of getting with the tropical storms that will be sort of hitting Haiti following the earthquake are, in some way our fault from climate change and stuff like that. But
they're really our fault. Yeah.
But the earthquakes have always felt so seemingly random to me. Like obviously you have a higher likelihood of being involved in an earthquake if you live near a fault line, which Haiti is. So.
Do you want me to ruin that with my science?
What?
You want me to ruin that with my science?
Is there not a fault line there? Or?
No, there is. But
I'm pretty sure that they were like on sort of like Haiti was almost encapsulated around fault lines, essentially.
It is.
Yeah.
But global warming is causing the ice sheets to melt, and the ice sheets were
so earthquakes are our fault.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That was an intense weight on one part of the Atlantic plate, let's say. So as Greenland lost the equivalent of ice that's equal to 2 inches of water that would cover the entire state of Florida, which I think we all can agree. We wish there was just 2 inches of water covering the entire state of Florida. But when you release that much weight off of one edge of the plate, it causes instability on the other edge. So in many ways, a lot of the activity we're going to see on the Atlantic plate and the Pacific plate for the same reason, and the South American and African plates for the same reason, only the Antarctic, not the Arctic, are because of humans. Not directly, because we're not causing earthquakes. We do when we like drill and
we're
frack
doing
in the middle
things
of a
and
plate.
we're doing things in which allows earthquakes to become more prevalent.
It causes them, because if the
Yeah.
ice didn't melt, the pressure would stay, and then the earthquake wouldn't happen likely. Especially these shallow earthquakes, they're from fault slipping because of the weight being lifted off the plate.
There we go.
So
it's
enjoy.
all our fault.
Yep.
And needless to say, whenever an earthquake hits, I feel really bad, because I feel like there's nothing, at least with a hurricane or something like that, you usually get some warning that it's coming. Like, everyone batten up, a really bad hurricane is coming through, or like, let's get out of here right now because the really bad hurricane's coming through. There's no like, hey, in a day and a half there's going to be an earthquake, I think people should get out, which usually makes the devastation that much worse, because people aren't prepared for, like, what would happen if an earthquake hit? Like, what do you do? Like, that's not something that people are constantly thinking about, which is
And
why they can be so deadly.
I was looking for a smooth transition to our next topic, and then I'm reminded of people standing on the beach with Confederate flags talking about, they will never make me leave my home, and then dying because they had 9 days of warning about a hurricane but refused to leave, and then were killed by the hurricane that came ashore. And of course, this is equivalent to COVID, where we've had nothing but warnings for a long time. And yet people are dying consistently. People are dying at high rates. 4,000 people had died today.
Yeah.
Well, the last day that was reported, which probably isn't today, but there's a Florida has now a law on the books that says you cannot enforce a mask mandate in the school.
Yeah.
And you can also not force people to report that their child has had a positive COVID test. So they could send the kid to school, which people have, and infect the entire class, which they did. And now there's an entire school district in Florida that is quarantining and isolating because each of their schools has had an outbreak that possibly infected all the students. So in the most Florida thing ever, we can enforce a mandate on this school district only because there are no students in the class.
Yeah.
Because they're all at home. And I just am blown away. I just keep asking myself, I thought we lived in a society. Yeah. What's her name? The commentator from New York.
Oh yeah. Pretend this is a city.
Pretend this is a society. Pretend that we live together in a place and that we can do something to help each other out. I mean, I think your example in our previous show call is absolutely telling. Going into 2019, I would have said that if there was a person who was dying of thirst on the street and I had an unopened bottle of water, that 50% of people would have stopped without question and given that person the bottle of water.
Oh, I had the number way higher, but yeah.
Well, and then there's an additional percentage above that would have like thought about it, and any look or any request from the person, they would have given them the water. But it's just like, I don't want to get involved if they don't want me to get involved. Oh, you want me involved? Okay, bottle of water, bam.
Yeah.
So probably 75, 80% of people would have done that. And then there's that 5% of people that have been like, fuck you, get a job. When the person's dying of thirst and you have a bottle of water in your hands. And we have grossly misestimated how people would break down.
That's the most surprising thing to me, I think, in this COVID age that we've lived in. I just thought there was more people who would be sympathetic to others in that sort of way. And I realize that so much of this is really Trump's fault because he fucking put it in people's heads that they could be against this. Like, much like, we're talking about 9/11. On September 12th, America it was the high point of America getting together with each other. Because regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or anything, even if you had like a really weird political ideology that wasn't even tracking in political circles, like Rob somewhere, you you would find yourself just saying to the person who lived next to you, like, we all went through this thing, we're all in this together, we're all gonna get through it, we're all gonna do what we have to do to see the sun shining on the other side. This should have been that moment. This should have been everybody getting together, and the fact that it was immediately a adversarial thing from the beginning. I mean, I really do believe that if Trump would have just gone the other way on this and tried to be the leader and tried to be the person who pulled us all together, he probably would have won re-election. He probably would be seen as a much better president than he was.
People don't remember how divisive George W. Bush was. Like, he was a compassionate conservative, so he was getting new people into the Republican Party. But that vote, the Florida, it's been 20 years. When we talk about the Florida vote, like the hanging chads and like winning by the Supreme Court, that was George W. Bush. 9 months after his inauguration, 9/11 happens, and everyone's like, rally up.
Yeah.
Because he was out there saying, you are not a Democrat or a Republican. You are not with your race or your gender. You are an American. Let's go do this.
It took so little effort, too. That was the other part. Like, people, like, August of 2001, people were saying, like, George W. Bush is a fucking joke. There was TV shows about how much of a fucking joke he was. Like, there was That's My Bush and some other cartoon, I think. Right?
I forgot about it.
But all of a sudden, September 11th happened, and it wasn't so funny to make fun of George W. Bush anymore. It was just like, no.
Democrats were saying, don't make fun of fucking Bush, man. He's our president. We got to get behind him.
We gotta do what we can. We got to get behind him. We got to make this work. I sometimes I just imagine what an alternate world would be where, like, the vaccine was not a political thing and like 89% of people had it or something like that. And the only people who didn't get the COVID vaccine were, a small percentage of crackpots and people who, for whatever reason, legitimately can't get the vaccine, and probably children. Like, those would be the people who don't have it. But we would be back to our normal lives pretty much at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
and let me draw out that world for you, because things that we wouldn't have. Delta variant, we would not have.
I mean, there's nothing stopping variants from happening around the world.
Yes,
where
there is, because, again, one of the things we did after 9/11 was built a worldwide coalition of countries. And if we had that 9/11 response where we were like, America are the leaders, get in behind us or don't, but we are leading the way. And we said, we are going to get this vaccine. We are going to spread it to everyone. Everyone's going to get it. We're going to give it to everyone. We want to help you get it to your populations. Let's figure out how we can get this done. Don't let 100,000 vials go bad in an airport waiting to go somewhere. Like, we have a plan. Let's get it done. If that had happened, then we wouldn't have these little variant factories all over the world. And even if we did hear about, like, in rural India, this variant's popping up, it wouldn't be in New Delhi.
I mean,
if it was getting on a plane and flying somewhere.
But I'm saying, like, to some degree, there's parts of the world that we're just not going to get in line per se. Like India, where the Delta picked up, was, like, largely based off of the president doing the same, Modi doing the same thing there, where he was downplaying that the virus is at all serious and you don't need to wear a mask. He was doing it for a
different reason, because they couldn't afford to buy the vaccines to vaccinate everybody.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying, like, even if Trump leaned hard into the I'm going to be the president who fixed COVID type of thing, then we wouldn't have been at the point where we're completely vaccinating India by this point either.
Why not? Why not?
No, I'm just saying because just based off of what kind of stuff that we had available, what kind of production capability we had.
That Trump from 2000 would have said, "Fuck you, Bill Gates. Fuck your IP. It's not going into patent law. It's going out to the public so that we can get everyone vaccinated."
They're doing that.
Able to? No, they're not. Nobody's doing that. The whole administration, the Biden administration, is backing Bill Gates' push to continue IP protection on the vaccines. And if a country is shown to abuse the IP protection, they lose access to the vaccine.
I must have missed something because I'm pretty sure I read something different. But I'm willing
the
to.
booster shot will be sold to America where it will be given out for free. We will pay for it, just like we did the first 2 doses, just like we have millions of doses that went out to the rest of the world. All of these things are paid for, rather than just saying, hey, you made a vaccine. Congratulations. Like Jonas Salk, we will remember you forever. Now, give it to us. We're going to manufacture it at high rates everywhere, and we're going to give it away to people for free. India could be on its way to full vaccination. Indonesia could be on its way to full vaccination. China could be on its way to full vaccination. And then we don't have these variant factories.
I'm not saying we wouldn't be better off than we are right now, but I don't think we would be completely 100% out of the woods. And I still think that the means by which a variant could happen would still be out there. There would still be a degree of vaccinated people who are going to get sick with the breakthrough infections.
Sure.
It won't be as bad because there will be less unvaccinated people who are like viciously spreading it, as opposed to vaccinated people who are less viciously spreading it. But
on that topic, do you feel, Corey, lucky enough to be one of the 5,000?
No, I don't.
Yes. In this case, this is the worst lottery that you want to win, because there have been 5,000 people since May 1st who have been fully vaccinated and have still gotten the Delta variant and died. Breakthrough infection that led to death. There have been 69,000 infections of fully vaccinated people that led to hospitalization. Because again, this is not a blanket sterilizing vaccine. This is a protecting vaccine, which hopefully brings down symptoms, but may not always work because it doesn't work in everybody. That's how statistics work. Yeah. So the more people that have it, the less spread in the community, the less likely someone's going to get a breakthrough and die. So if we had a better situation, we wouldn't have 5,000 fully vaccinated people who died and 70,000 who had been hospitalized. We would have much lower numbers because the number of vaccinated people would be lower. The spread in the community would be lower. And also, again, I know you are of the mindset that like, oh, it hasn't been that much more people. I firmly disagree. I think that a large measure of very responsible people who spent the last year or 18 months saying, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to, keep my head together, stay inside, have reached the end of their ability to care for anyone other than themselves. And they're saying to themselves, if I can travel, if it is allowed, I am going to travel, and everyone's else health be damned. I don't care about kids dying. I don't care about old people dying. I'm going to be fine because I have the vaccine, which isn't true. You could still die. You could still be sick, but I'm going to travel because I feel like I'll be fine. We're right back to last year. We're right back to this time last year where people were saying the same thing.
Well, here's where I disagree. Like, I think that there are certainly, to some degree, there's less people who are as super responsible as they were 1 year ago. There's more people who are saying, oh, now that I'm vaccinated, I'm going to do this thing that I wanted to do. I haven't had a vacation in a year and a half. I'm going to go to a beach somewhere. Like, there's people who are making rationalizations for why they can do the thing that they want to do and feel safe about it. I'm sure all the people that went to Lollapalooza didn't say to themselves, here's the event I'm going to get sick at. Like, they thought that they would be able to protect themselves in some sort of way against whatever would happen there. By the way, surprisingly enough, we're sort of on the outside edge of where a lot of people will show positivity, but there doesn't seem to be like a mass event that has happened at Lollapalooza, maybe just by dumb luck and happenstance, or we haven't hit the velocity necessary for that sort of thing to happen.
Or a bunch of asymptomatic people went back to their homes and never got tested, so we don't know. Spread it to somebody else who was asymptomatic, they don't know. Passed it on to somebody who was unvaccinated, they got sick, and there was no connection directly back to Lollapalooza.
No.
That is a flawed study. Talking about how there wasn't a super spreader.
I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying, like, so far right now, based off of what we know, it seems to be not as awful of a place as one could possibly, it's not Sturgis like it was a year ago when Sturgis
didn't have a vaccine.
Right.
Sure, it's not. But again, it is a bunch of selfish people. You are all entirely selfish. In the last week, I have been 3 places: my apartment, my work, my office, and the OTA LA studios, which I had to be begged, borrowed, and pulled to get there. So 3 places somewhere in my bubble, and then my work in my own home.
See, but
I do not understand the mentality that is having people go out. I'm going to go to Cabo for a fucking week. I'm going to go to Hawaii for a week.
No, and
how fucking selfish are you?
No,
we live in a goddamn society.
I understand, but I'm saying also the other side of this too is that I think there was some things that were happening that were not leading to cases like people thought they were when we didn't know anything, that are perfectly fine to be doing. You know, like I went to Shake Shack once not too long ago, right? I ordered at the kiosk. I was sitting at the table wearing my mask outside until the person brought me the food, sat it down in front of me in a tray, walked away. There was literally nobody within my sight. I couldn't have spit on somebody if I wanted to. There wasn't anyone close enough to me, you know? And I'm outside eating a hamburger without a mask. If you would have asked me in April of last year whether or not I was going to go outside and sit somewhere without a mask, I was going to tell you no, absolutely not. Under any circumstance whatsoever would I do that. But
I'm making excuses for people. That's not the same.
No, but
it's not the same as getting on a plane, going to a resort, not wearing a mask for a week at a pool with 150 other people, getting drunk and doing God knows what.
Clearly, but I'm saying that, you know, like there's some people who feel like they can do things safely, so that, you know, it's
not all cops are bad. There's just some bad apples, and as long as we don't call them out, that doesn't mean we're bad apples too.
I disagree. Moving on to LAPD stuff here real quick.
Speaking of cops.
Speaking of fucking cops, I'm obviously a transplant Angelino. I have not lived here.
I did not know where that sentence was going to end up, but go ahead. Yeah.
I have not been here for, you know, decades, like a lot of people who live in this town. You know, I wasn't here during Rodney King, which is obviously like sort of the landmark.
You know who's been here for decades?
I've known some native Angelinos. There's a good swath of them out there.
I mean, listen, just because somebody grew up in Whittier doesn't make them a native Angelino, all right? Like, Angelino's Angelino.
It's not like anywhere else I know in my any other place I've lived, like in New York, you know, which is a huge, like, people come from elsewhere to live in New York kind of place. Still, I feel like 50% of people in New York City were like, you know, a couple generations of New Yorkers, you know, like there was a long enough.
The gentleman New Yorker, like the 3-year-old who's got no friends. And what show is that from? Damn it. The 2 female comedians who are super funny.
Broad City?
Broad City. It's from Broad City. Watch Broad City. Corey hasn't, clearly.
Even though I named the show that you were looking for, just based.
You don't know what I'm talking about, though. John Slattery is the father of a little New York City gentleman, or something like that. Whatever it is. Anyway.
No, but you know, obviously, Angelinos are less than like New York or Baltimore. Baltimore is like a place where you are born into, and then you just stay. Like,
well, because they murder you, so you never get to leave.
Yeah, there's not a huge outpouring of people like living in Cleveland who are like, oh man, I can't wait to move to Baltimore. I like did I tell you the John Waters line, by the way? He was on WTF, and it was just like, you live in Baltimore, right? You're born there, you live there for a long time. He's just like, oh yeah, I love it. And it's just like, what would you say to somebody? It's just like, I don't know why anyone comes. I know why you I know why you stay if you're there, but I don't get why you would come if you're not. Like,
did your car break down? You got stuck here for a week and loved it? What's the story?
Anyway, back to this LAPD thing. So there was an anti-vax event that apparently had a permit at City Hall. And this anti-vax event was filled with people who were at January 6th and members of the Proud Boys. And
there is no evidence that the Proud Boys were there, Corey.
Again, if you spend the requisite 5 minutes on Twitter looking at people's live photos and videos of the event, you will see that there is an alarming amount of people wearing Proud Boy paraphernalia and other things related to it. I'm willing to. Much like I don't think there's any circumstance in which you could find me wearing a Nazi uniform, because I don't even want people to confuse that it might be a joke or something. Like, there's no reason for me to ever be in like a Nazi uniform, because like I just don't think that even the joke wouldn't be powerful enough to warrant it, you know?
Right. Only in your closet with the door closed. That
Only
one secret one you have in
if
the
I
back.
was Taika Waititi would I be willing to wear the full regalia. But that is like a very specific scenario, you know.
I was gonna,
It's
also,
like-
as a white man, that has a much different scenario than Taika Waititi playing Hitler in a movie.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the name of this guy? I can't pronounce it. All right, he's probably fine. He's probably fine.
He's allowed to
wearing
be Hitler. No, but anti-vax event with Proud Boys and other fucking unsavory characters. And you know, obviously groups like that seem to gravitate a lot of attention to them. But when the LAPD put out a bulletin on social media to let people know, avoid the City Hall area because somebody just got stabbed. By the way, the person that got stabbed, the journalist, the person who stabbed him, a Proud Boy. So if you want to find video of it,
allegedly.
if you want to find
allegedly,
a video of the person getting stabbed in real time, you can find it on twitter.com. It's pretty easy. Just type in LAPD and it'll be one of the many responses to the things that they've said. So the one thing that they mentioned in their statement to the public was that the counter protesters, who they identified as Antifa, were causing a scene. Again, mind you, the journalist that got stabbed was stabbed by a Proud Boy or some Proud Boy affiliated hate group. So I don't know why there was a need to point out Antifa, which to the best of my knowledge is like not really like concentrated, not a concentrated
not a
organization.
thing.
Like, I'm sure there's people who like identify as Antifa and people who do things under the auspices of Antifa, but like, you know, also the idea that there's like a fucking Antifa local, like you remember the whole like I saw Antifa on a plane. Who was that? Like flying to Seattle or something, like, flying from Seattle to.
First
all
of all,
had their tickets paid for by fucking what's his
George
face? Soros, yeah.
Corey, I would like to hope that you are Antifa. I am Antifa.
I mean, in the abstract, where Antifa means anti-fascist, yes, of course.
I'm an Antifa-chisti. I am against fascism. That is what that means.
Yeah, like.
Now, and that covers a wide berth from people who are semi-fascist but embarrassed about it, like Corey, to communists like me.
No,
right?
I mean,
it's a very wide berth of people.
It's the same reason why
libertarian. I'm libertarian. I shouldn't say Nazi adjacent. It's
no,
libertarian.
You know, it's the same reason why the political parties are named after like are you Democrat? Like, yeah, of course I believe in democracy. Like, are you a Republican?
Are you a Republican?
Well, yes, of course I believe in the Republic of the United States, like, for which it stands. Like, you know, like these things. Are you a patriot or do you love America? It's just like, can I only choose one? Like, like
Corey. When did you start to beat your wife?
Yeah, one of those leading.
Sorry, that's a question that a prosecutor might ask, to which there is no good answer, because when did you start to beat your wife already has the presumption that you beat your wife in it. And so the only answer you have is a stammering like, but I don't beat my wife. That's not the question I asked you, Corey.
I haven't done it yet. Yeah.
I've never beat my wife. So you think you're capable of it?
Anywho, perhaps the point here is that perhaps LA might do good by themselves. As seen as I come from a place where a police department completely ruined any kind of reputation it had in the town. Baltimore went from people being generally distrustful of the police organization to there is literally no point unless all you're doing is trying to get a police report for an insurance claim. There is almost no reason you would call the Baltimore Police Department to solve an issue of yours.
Huh?
Like,
wait, Suitor? Oh yeah, cop shot him. 100%.
Yeah. my favorite part about that is no matter who you were white, you were black, you were young, you were old, you were Republican, you were Democrat, you'd
East
walk
side,
up
west side.
East Side, West Side, no matter what, any kind of difference, people from Dundalk, people from the city, you'd ask them all the same, and you'd be like, so what happened with Sean Suter? And it's like, oh yeah, fucking cops got him. Like, it's 100%. Like, there's not a single soul alive except for the person who, like, wrote the report to try and make the Baltimore Police Department not seem responsible, who believes that it was anyone other than a cop that killed Sean Suter. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
my general rule for LA is right now you're at that tipping point. Last year you had LAPD like firing rounds and drive-bys at protesters. You've had like a really bad couple of years here recently. Like you had Rodney King happen way back when, and LAPD has never really like risen too high in the trust rating since then. And the actions of the last couple of years have really started to make a decline. And I think if you are interested in keeping the LAPD as like an institution, and keeping as many of the people that you have paid as possible, now would be a good opportunity to just take stock of who you got in the ranks, because the gravy train won't be running around forever. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, it's not.
Check number one: if they were at the Proud Boys rally and they weren't working, probably not a good person to have in your ranks.
Fucking Jerry, put your mask on. I know it's you. Like,
I don't care about COVID. I can see your face.
There's cameras here, Jerry. You're putting yourself in an awful position.
I love that we put the Southern accent on him, but like 100%, that's just an Orange County guy. Like, both of them live in the county.
They talk like that too in Orange County.
Oh, fair enough. All right, so we got a couple of other things. Let's lightning round these last couple of things that we got.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, just one last thing in LA. I can make this really quick. There is video of long lines of students going into school to get tested.
I saw it. It is a real thing. Video not needed. I saw it in real life.
So Rob was across the street from the high school loading in, so he saw it. I think that I think this is one of those stupid things that like gets passed around every year. Like, oh my God, there's LA traffic on the day before Thanksgiving with people trying to get out of town. Like, yeah, of course. No shit, there's traffic on the 405. Like, thanks for the.
Go. Unless that bitch on Twitter is just like, no, 25 minutes to the airport. Don't worry about it. This is like.
Oh, fucking fly LAX stats. The most worthless. Anywho, I think universally, if you ask parents whether or not kids should be back in school, they're gonna say yes, no matter what it takes. I want these kids back in school.
Fuck these kids.
So yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm just happy that they all stood in line to get a COVID test. Like, that's basically my place. I'd rather them being tested all the time. And today was the first day of school, so I think in LA County. So
for some of the schools, yeah, but that was the line.
Generally speaking, the first day of school. So yeah, seems totally normal to me. I mean,
at 11 a.m. there was a line down the block at the high school across the street from my office. Down the block at 11 a.m.
My hope is that in the weeks to come, Mondays are A through D and Tuesdays are E through G, and like, we're going to break this up a little bit so that we don't have a line of like every single kid that goes to the school like lined up outside. But first day, it's not a normal day at school anyway. It doesn't really. Nobody looks back positively on all the things they learned on the first day of school. It's mostly just meeting your teachers and like seeing who's in your classes. And
you've been in LA 5 years. What faith do you have that they will bring about some common sense system to get tests on?
Oh, none. I'm just saying, like, obviously, hope springs eternal that somebody will just be like, hey, should we break this up?
Yet another
Southern accent. I don't know why it's coming out of me today.
Another chalk up on that board of why would anyone bring a child into this world? Anyway, here's Sportsball. Who was ready with the transition that time, son?
We'll make this quick. I'm gonna start with the Field of Dreams though. Did you catch any of the Field of Dreams game?
I saw the highlights. That's it. I didn't actually watch the game. So
I would like to say that this is one of the rare wins for Major League Baseball. They usually
semi-win.
Usually if Major League Baseball is involved in something, it's a fuck up of colossal, like the the Astros cheated. Like Major League Baseball got involved, fucked it up. Referees were strip searching people on the field. That was Major League Baseball's call. Fucked it up.
Yep.
Like it's just a constant long stream of almost Three Stooges like fuck ups on a constant basis when you're Major League Baseball. But for whatever reason, in this one, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch them play baseball in a cornfield, and watching home runs like go into the corn was awesome. And Kevin Costner being involved was a big win, I felt. And it was so close. The only problem I had is they should have just played on the fucking actual field, like the actual field they filmed the movie on, as opposed to the minor league stadium that they essentially built for this occasion. Because
but now you know why they couldn't do that, Corey. The filming starts very shortly. They couldn't mess up the good field.
The problem is that this is not me criticizing unions, but the unions probably have rules saying like what the specifications of the field have to be, and then Fox for broadcasting it says like we need this many camera wells, and Major League Baseball obviously wants to make a little bit of money, so they're going to put more stands up and stuff like that. But really, if there was ever a game where I just wanted to watch a bunch of people like fucking run around like a dirt field in the middle of Iowa in front of like 30 to 40 people, it was this one. Like that would have
including
been
Kevin Costner. Like, how do you beat that?
Yeah, just like him, just like standing behind the backstop, like watching the whole thing, like pacing. Like, oh, it would have been great. But it's fine. It's fine.
And it ended as well as that game could have ended.
Oh, and that's the greatest thing too, because much like NHL, who fucks up everything on a continuous basis as well. They had a really great idea with the Winter Classic a couple years ago. And like when you could put a hockey game in Fenway Park or something like that, you're just like, oh yes, of course, let's do this. Why wouldn't we? And then obviously you realize that the size of the ice rink is like just the size of like the back end of the infield. So like nobody has a really great seat of like what's going on in the hockey rink from any place in Fenway.
I think we have the puck. I can't. Oh no, he's going off the ice. Nope, he doesn't have it.
Your best hope is that you are like in the 300 level, like of the upper deck, like looking down, just so you can track the action. Like, because if you're on like a field box seat or something like that, like there's no chance you have of seeing anything related to that game.
Watching bodies, dude. That's it. Putting that big poster up on the board. Tyler, number 19. We sucked your dick in high school. That's it.
Here's the question. There was a lot of fans saying that next year, in the same vein, they should have a Sandlot game. Is there a baseball movie that you think should inspire another baseball related regular season game in the future?
Yes. I think we should look to the movie Major League, and the Indians. I'm sorry, the Challenger?
Guardians.
Guardians get to keep their name if they win the game. If not, they have to change it again because the Guardians is a dumb name if you don't have the website. Which they still don't have, by the way. Just so you know, they don't have that stuff.
ClevelandGuardians.com.
I like Sandlot, but it doesn't work because the Sandlot is a little league ball field.
Well, yeah,
so it's like 180 to left.
Yeah, I mean, you really be crushing home runs in that one. Like
that's a home run derby. I don't know.
Part of the reason why I think the Field of Dreams game was so fun was I don't know what the dimensions in the outfield were, but if I had to charitably guess, it was like 250 feet all the way around. It was like a real bandbox. And when you don't have any like stadium built around it to like compress air from or like keep air from getting to the field, like I'm sure there were just balls that were getting 180 feet in the air and just like flying, like like it just felt that way.
And that's fun, but also it was playable. It wasn't so small that it was just like everything was going out.
Right.
So
yeah. They should, you know what they should do is they should create like a virtual experience game and just create the dimensions of an old field, like create the polo grounds in like a in a lot somewhere, and then just create the AR experience of like we're playing in the polo grounds or we're playing at any one of the classic old ballparks.
They built that stadium in the corn. They could build the polo grounds like
just fucking cut down some corn
and
and like make some ethanol. Come on, let's do it.
600 feet to right, 110 feet to left. Let's do this.
Moving on. We had to say goodbye to somebody this week in the Orioles. Chris Davis, Crush, had to officially retire this week. And of course he did it because if he didn't do it right now, then he would have to be cut in the offseason because he's taken up a valuable 40-man roster spot. And it's bittersweet. I mean, like, listen, I was telling Rob beforehand, there's like this place that I am like, I'm happy whenever anyone gets life-changing money. Like on a personal level, if Rob told me like, hey, oh my God, somebody bought the Movement series for me and they paid me $160 million, I'd be like, oh my God,
fuck.
It's like, wow, did they overpay?
Absolutely. And first of all, you would never hear that news. You would just be like hitting me up on Facebook and never get a response because I would just drop off the face.
Where did Rob go?
One would see me again. Yeah. My nephew would get a college fund fully paid along with a trust, and no one would ever see me again.
I feel like I would have the Homer Hank Scorpio moment where it's just like, I know your dream is to own the Dallas Cowboys, but I hope this can get you started in the meantime. Love, Hank. And then he looks up, he's like, the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I wouldn't even do. I would buy a small country or an island somewhere and just disappear and go feral, 100% feral. Next time you saw me, I would have not showered in years probably, and just it would be not good, but also fantastic.
Well, to doing it a different way, Chris Davis did donate a lot of his money to the Baltimore community. They had a daughter who had a heart condition when she was born, and it became the Davis's goal to try and help as many kids as they possibly could who were born with heart conditions, and that included a one-time $3 million gift to the University of Maryland Medical Center, on top of millions more that were done semi-anonymously, and like. Apparently, they used to donate money all the time to University of Maryland, and then they were going to write the $3 million check, and they were just like, come on, we have to tell people about this amazing gift that you gave us. It's like, no, I don't want a thing. Yeah. It's just like, you can't write us a check for $3 million and not expect us to like publicly thank you in some sort of like, that's not like, if you're writing $500,000 checks, like we can keep you out of the news, but like we have to tell people about something like that, like, so they were great ambassadors to Baltimore, and they truly seem to love living in Baltimore, and that's a shame because these last couple of years were not friendly to Chris Davis, seeing as he was statistically one of the worst players in Major League Baseball history.
Bittersweet.
At the same time as he's making more money than he deserved to, which just was this cross he was never able to bear, like I don't think if Chris Davis had signed a 4-year, $70 million extension instead, I don't think people would be crucifying him the way he is. I don't mean to keep doing cross and crucify and stuff like that, but
the contract became an
the
albatross.
Jesusness of him was stuck in my head there. But
the contract became an albatross around his neck because you were never going to perform up to that. As soon as you wanted to perform at all, it's just digging yourself out of a hole you can't get out of.
Well, even when Alex Rodriguez signed that first contract with the Rangers, the $250 million over 10 years. Yeah. And people were just like, fucking $25 million a year. What the fuck? Like, they couldn't even comprehend somebody making that much money. And, he was an MVP candidate all the first 3 years of that deal. And he hit 50 home runs and did everything he was supposed to do. And people were still going like, God, I mean, he's great and all, but $25 million, like, how the fuck? Now you look at it and you're just like, you realize that, like, the real value of some of these contracts should be so much higher. But like, it's also like people can't understand how a baseball player can make so much money, and at the same time, it's the Harry Shearer thing where it's just like they make $30 million to do voices for The Simpsons, and they're just like, yes, in one camp we are severely overpaid. If you consider what we make compared to like teachers and people who like, doctors and people who like really help people, we are underpaid. But if you look at it in terms of how much money the studio makes, yes, The Simpsons makes, because I'm involved and because Dan's involved and because, like you go down the line, yes, we are actually underpaid. And that kind of, like LeBron James on the Cleveland Cavaliers, their value goes from $700 million to $1.5 billion during the time that he's on there the second time. So, yes, the Angeloses bought the Orioles for, $300 million or something like that. Maybe it was like 200 cash, something like that. And now if they sold today, it would be $1.5 billion probably. So
plus Masson, don't forget Masson. So there's
I'm just saying, like, no matter what way you cut it, Chris Davis with his $160 million 7-year deal sounds like it was a fucking like it was bad for the organization, but they'll manage to survive. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the future here with the number 2 ranked farm system after the draft, I think the Orioles' future looks bright. Number 1 pitching prospect and Grayson Rodriguez, number 1 hitting prospect and Adley Rutschman. A bunch of players in the top 100. It is it's good it's good to be an Orioles fan in the abstract, because eventually we're going to get all these great players who come up. And
maybe
in reality, it's terrible because I've been promised this before so many times and I've always ended up disappointed.
Well, I was going to say, to the point, is Buck coming back? Because he's the guy who like loves the farm system and brings up the players. Otherwise, he might sell all this shit off and just go into a rebuilding again.
Let's sell off our top prospects to get new top prospects.
Thanks, Angelos.
It's like the guy who's afraid to commit, so he just continues. He's just like, no, I'll just lose 100 games every year and just get more prospects.
Wait, the guy who's afraid to commit, so he refuses to commit. Is this what we call pulling a Corey Baker? Is that?
No, how dare you?
It can't be a Rob Cheek. I got 5 rings. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like the Yankees over here.
All right. Well, if you want to see where we rank on the farm system listing, you know where you go.
Where's that?
Core to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more on me on the website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and @Legends35 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm not going to say things out loud anymore because I just don't feel like it.
I was waiting for it.
Go ahead, Rob.
No. I mean, what do you got coming? What's in the pipe? What's coming down? What's loaded to YouTube that you're never going to make live?
Oh, fuck. I do need to make that live.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I have to do that. But other than that, nothing in the works right now. So let's see.
All right. Well, using all that time at home very wisely. Now me with my 80-hour work weeks, I apologize. No, not a lot of new content. However, I am streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Robert N. Cheek. You can find me there. I'll be doing Splitgate, and Call of Duty Season 5 is up now. So we're grinding out the Tech 9. We're looking for the cane. We got a lot of stuff going on there. So if you're into Call of Duty, come follow me there. Splitgate's new games like Portal, Metalo. So it's real fun. And there's no cheaters. So it's a lot more fun to watch. Come watch that. Everything else you can find social media at Robert N. Cheek. Of course, robertncheek.com, where you can find links to all the stuff that I've worked on. And I do have other content like edited and ironically up on YouTube, just not public yet. So I will make some of that public too on a good. The problem is I always plan for Monday because I'm like, I want to get it up Monday. So then the podcast goes up Tuesday. And then we can have like the week of like promoting all the stuff. And then I miss Monday. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to put it up Tuesday because podcast goes up Tuesday. I don't want to put it up Wednesday because I don't want to, and then by the time it's like Friday, I'm like, I'll just wait till Monday.
Yeah.
And I just never do it.
I found myself in the same kind of problem. So I just got to auto send these things to like just go up on
Yeah.
Monday at 8
but
a.m. If you ever
I
see
am working
if
on-
you ever see a YouTube video go up for me on Monday at 8 a.m., just be assured I didn't wake up early to put that video
ain't
up.
no way. Ain't no way.
That was
but
Prass Corey thinking ahead.
I am still working on my my TikTok series about the colors and why everyone's secretly a communist. And I am honestly working on a video about how there's a 1500-year-old a book about 1500 years of my history, so why you should believe in me, and therefore I am equal to Christianity. Robinanity? I don't know. Rob Hubbard really fits well. I feel like I'm gonna go with Rob Hubbard in some way, shape, or form.
I mean,
that
I think it gives people a good idea of what they're signing up for. That at the very least, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't want your money. I just want your faith. I want your belief. I want to hear throngs of people screaming my name for absolutely free. I care not about the money. I can live.
You just
poor
want a
my
picture
entire
of
life.
you on holding a hand over the globe, like, like.
As I've said, I want statues of me all over the world that children can come and put their little heads under my hand and look up into my cold metal eyes and know someone out there cares about you. And then years later, when I call upon them to become my revolutionary army, they'll remember Baba, and they will come when I call. And then we'll get some change. And then my heel turn towards supervillainy will 100% be complete. That started now, thanks to all of you assholes out there being selfish. So,
and the
cool.
religion.
Oh, I mean, I'm just coming at it at all facets, man. I got cults, I got politics, I got everything. We're coming at it from all angles. One of these things is going to work out eventually, theoretically, but
or not. Anyway, I think we've done good here today.
That's a nice commentary that you think we've done good. We've done something. I don't know if it's good.
That's the part I believe.
As always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem Digital Network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Please be careful out there. Love each other.